The evening started like any other typical late-night show. Mark Wahlberg arrived on the Late Show, with Stephen Colbert looking sharp, confident, and in a generally upbeat mood. The audience applauded enthusiastically, and Colbert greeted him, with the usual warm welcome and a few light-hearted jokes. Everything appeared smooth and friendly, until Colbert shifted gears into a more serious line of questioning. He brought up Mark's controversial past, referencing his early criminal history, and questioning whether he truly felt remorse or had merely cleaned up his image for public acceptance. Mark appeared slightly taken aback but remained composed. He responded cautiously, emphasizing how he had worked hard to change, giving back to communities, mentoring youth, and staying grounded. However, the mood quickly shifted when Colbert pressed again, this time implying that Mark's efforts were more performative than sincere. Mark's facial expression changed, and so did the energy in the room. You could sense the tension crackling between them. Mark tried to steer the conversation back toward his new film, a drama about personal growth and redemption, but Colbert wasn't letting go. "Do you think the public should forget everything you did before fame just because you act in movies about redemption?" Colbert asked, half smiling but visibly firm. Wahlberg's response was sharp but calm. "I don't ask for anyone to forget. I ask for people to see the whole picture." That comment was met with light claps from the audience, but Colbert wasn't done. "But can people believe the change when it's coming from someone sitting in Hollywood's lap?" Mark paused and leaned forward. "Stephen, I didn't come here to be interrogated. I came here to talk about a project that means something to me." The mood had completely shifted. The casual, fun tone expected from a talk show was gone, replaced with palpable tension that left the audience sitting awkwardly silent. Mark's voice carried a subtle tremble, not of fear, but frustration. Colbert, undeterred, responded with an almost sarcastic tone. "So are tough questions off the table?" Wahlberg took a deep breath. "There's a difference between tough questions and rehashing stuff I've answered 1,000 times. You want a headline or do you want a conversation?" The line visibly caught Colbert off guard. He adjusted in his seat, the smile on his face now tight and uncertain. The two exchanged a long look before Mark added, "If you really cared about redemption, you'd be more focused on the journey forward than digging through someone's worst moments for entertainment." The audience gave a mixed reaction. Some murmured agreement, others looked unsure. Even the band stayed quiet, unsure of whether to play an interlude or just let the scene breathe. Colbert tried to return to a lighter topic, but the moment had clearly passed. Wahlberg was no longer in the mood for jokes, and his body language made that evident. Mark sat back with his arms crossed, and Colbert attempted to continue the segment by joking about Boston accents, perhaps to lighten the atmosphere. But Wahlberg didn't laugh. "You're trying to pivot," he said plainly, "but I think we should call this what it is." Colbert raised his eyebrows. "Which is?" Wahlberg looked directly at him. "You brought me on your show for entertainment, but what you really wanted was a spectacle." Colbert defended himself. "That's unfair. I ask real questions. My audience expects it." Mark nodded slowly. "Then ask real questions about the work I'm doing now, not just the dirt from the past." There was a long pause. No one spoke. No one laughed. No one clapped. It felt like both men were trying to assert control of the room, but the more they did, the more uncomfortable everything became. Wahlberg clearly didn't want to sit through the rest of the interview. His patience was visibly thinning by the second. Mark finally said, "You know what? Maybe this isn't the place for this conversation." Colbert tried to joke it off. "Don't tell me you're going to walk off. This isn't cable news." But Mark didn't laugh. He stood up from his chair and looked toward the crew, then at the audience. "I've said what I came to say. I'll promote the film elsewhere." The crowd gasped, unsure if this was real or part of some scripted drama. It wasn't. Wahlberg looked directly at the camera and added, "You want the film? Watch it. You want a real story of redemption? Live it." Then he calmly walked off the stage. The band didn't play. Colbert sat frozen, clearly stunned. The moment had spiraled far beyond what anyone had expected. The show cut to an unscheduled commercial break, and the screen faded to black, leaving millions watching at home confused and buzzing with speculation. When the show returned from break, Colbert offered a short cryptic comment. Sometimes guests take things differently than expected. That's showbiz. But the audience remained stiff and unsure of how to react. On social media, clips of Wahlberg's exit went viral instantly. Viewers debated whether he overreacted or whether Colbert had pushed too far. The hashtag Wahlberg walkout trended within hours. Opinion pieces popped up across the internet, analyzing every word of the confrontation. Some praised Wahlberg for standing up for himself, claiming late-night shows too often use old controversies for ratings. Others defended Colbert, arguing that accountability should never be off-limits, especially in today's celebrity culture. The incident divided fans, talk show hosts, and journalists alike. News outlets replayed the footage in slow motion, dissecting facial expressions and body language like a sports breakdown. Meanwhile, neither Wahlberg nor Colbert issued immediate full statements, letting speculation run wild across the media landscape. Within 24 hours, Mark posted a short video on Instagram. In it, he spoke directly to the camera. "Everyone's got a past. I've never hidden mine. But when we talk about growth, we should focus on action, not just questions." He didn't mention Colbert by name, but the implication was clear. "I'm proud of what I've built. Proud of the work I do with kids, with communities, with people trying to turn things around." His fans flooded the comments with support. Many said they respected him more for walking away than if he had stayed silent and tolerated what they felt was an ambush. Meanwhile, Colbert's team released a short written response stating that the show remains committed to thoughtful and respectful interviews. Still, the air around the show felt different. Other guests who had upcoming appearances began requesting pre-screened questions, or even considered rescheduling. The fallout from the clash affected not just the two men, but the entire show's rhythm. Backstage sources revealed that even the crew was shaken. One anonymous staff member told a blog that no one saw it coming. "We thought it'd be a fun interview." Another said the producers debated cutting the segment entirely, but decided the transparency was more important. For Wahlberg, the incident became part of the film's narrative. Ticket sales surged, and the movie started being discussed not just for its plot, but for its lead actor's real-life confrontation on national television. Industry insiders speculated whether the clash was a career setback or a moment of bold authenticity. Either way, Mark Wahlberg had cemented himself in the pop culture conversation. Colbert, meanwhile, appeared a little more cautious in his next few interviews, occasionally poking fun at the situation, but mostly avoiding anything resembling confrontation. It seemed both men had walked away, changed, one publicly, the other more subtly behind the scenes. Weeks later, the buzz still lingered. Podcast hosts, YouTubers, and talk show analysts continued to revisit the clash. Some turned the moment into commentary on celebrity interviews, questioning where the line lies between tough journalism and public shaming. Wahlberg's choice to walk off became a kind of statement, a refusal to participate in narratives he found unproductive. For fans of honesty, it was refreshing. For critics of celebrity culture, it was complicated. Meanwhile, Colbert remained professional, never bad-mouthing Wahlberg, but the silence between them was notable. Rumors swirled that executives had urged Colbert to reach out privately, though whether that happened was never confirmed. Despite the firestorm, the incident highlighted one universal truth. Every public figure has limits, and when those limits are tested, what comes next defines their legacy more than any scripted appearance ever could. In the end, the moment became more than just entertainment. It sparked a national conversation about second chances, about boundaries, about respect in media. Whether you sided with Wahlberg or Colbert, you couldn't deny the rawness of what had unfolded. It was unscripted, emotional, and deeply human. Not a publicity stunt, not a meme, but a real-time example of what happens when two strong personalities collide under the glare of studio lights. Wahlberg continued his film tour, appearing on other shows, but always carrying a new level of respect or controversy with him. Colbert, seasoned as ever, moved on too, but the night remained a defining moment in his hosting career. Sometimes clashes like this don't just create ratings, they create ripples, and those ripples can last far longer than the applause or the headlines ever will.